A few years ago, I got an offer from Hollywood. Somebody called me and said, how would you like to be in a film with William Shatner? A lot of people, some of them are trying to freeze themselves so that the body can live longer. Every spiritual tradition, in fact, every religion on earth has this one thing in common, that death is not the end. Death is not the end. A human body is clearly an amazing biological machine. So is it possible to freeze it and resurrect it, make it again alive after decades or centuries? Well, why not? But my question would be, why?
I wanted to touch a topic of cryogenics just because I don't know if you've seen some of the documentaries, some of the reels people have been making these days. Obviously it's a lot of the, wealthy people that are kind of doing this, but you see people are actually freezing themselves, right? They're putting themselves in kind of like a chamber or whatever, and in the hopes that decades later, maybe centuries later, they can be, for lack of better words, defrosted. But in hopes that, maybe their physical diseases, maybe, cancer or anything, there might be a cure for it, right? In the hopes that, as technology advances through time. I wanted to talk to you about that because I've talked to some other people who have said that it's possible, right? That the body does not completely die and the body can be resurrected. So that's very interesting. But then I wanted to get your point of view because I feel like a lot of people are curious about this, and I feel like it's important to let them know not only what the ethical choice is, but even if it's logical or practical at all, right?
I've heard of it. And it seems to be an in thing now, something that people, super rich people, especially in Silicon Valley and other places, are trying to do.
Exactly.
The whole goal seems to be to live forever, or at least live, with a young and healthy body for a very, very long time. It's interesting that you should bring this up because a few years ago, I got an offer from Hollywood. Somebody called me. Hollywood. Somebody called me and said, how would you like to be in a film with William Shatner?
Oh, okay.
And I said, yes, because we grew up as kids in India in our generation. We had just this one or two American serials on Indian TV, on Doordarshan. And one of them was Star Trek. So as kids in our generation, we grew up with Captain Kirk. William Shatner as Captain Kirk, the captain of the Enterprise. So yes, I said, all right, I want to be with William Shatner in a film or something, in a documentary. So there is a documentary, I think it's called The Unknown or something like that. It's on History Channel. It's on American TV anyway. It's a well-known series, and in the second season, one episode was The Secret of the Yogis. And what they were interested in was, how do yogis live so long? So exactly this project, they said that a lot of people, some of them are trying to freeze themselves so that the body can live longer and maybe resurrect them then when the technology is advanced enough to rejuvenate them, cure diseases and stuff like that. And what would be the perspective from an Indian spiritual viewpoint? So in the interview, I said, look, you are immortal already. The body dies, but you're not the body. The whole attempt to save the body desperately at any cost is because we are not even investigating the possibility of whether we are really just this body. Is that all that there is? Or are we something more than this? Did we exist before this body came? And right now, are we something more than this body? And will we continue to exist after this body is gone? And every religion, every spiritual tradition, in fact, every religion on earth has this one thing in common, that death is not the end. Death is not the end. Physical death is not the end. So, yes, whether the body itself can live for a long time, I don't know much about it. Everybody in India knows the story of Trailanga Swami, who was in Banaras, one of the famously long-lived yogis. He's supposed to have lived, there's sufficient documentation actually, which goes to show that he lived a pretty long time. He probably lived for 280 years. So I told the story of Trailanga Swami. But I emphasized the fact that we actually do not die at the death of the body. And we go on from lifetime to lifetime. It's not just Vedanta. Every Indian spiritual tradition says that. In fact, every religion says that we do survive the death of the body. But multiple lifetimes, multiple bodies, this is something that our spiritual traditions, Indian spiritual traditions stress. Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. So that's what I said to them.
Yeah.
When they finally put it on air, I saw the clips.
Okay.
So they had the story of Trailanga Swami and the yogis living for a long time, but the Vedanta part of it and the spiritual, philosophical part of it, they cut out. I don't think they are particularly interested in that.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, to answer your question directly, the human body is clearly an amazing biological machine. So is it possible to freeze it and resurrect it and make it again alive after decades or centuries? In principle, why not? But my question would be, why? Why take all that trouble? Take a little bit of trouble to investigate what we are. Are we truly, other than the body, can we truly transcend the body? The evidence of all spiritual philosophies and any number of spiritual masters across the centuries and millennia. Why turn a blind eye to that? Why take this enormous trouble and painful process and who knows, an uncertain future of trying to live in a frozen body? Not just freezing yourself in cryogenics. There are other things, so even crazier stuff like uploading your personality into the cloud or something like that.
Yeah, there's a show called Upload on Amazon Prime that literally it says that there's going to be artificial not an artificial intelligence, but a virtual
reality
afterlife.
Yes,
virtual afterlife.
afterlife.
Upload. Yeah.
Well, all religions are here to tell us you don't need to have a virtual afterlife. You have a real afterlife. So yeah, spend a little time investigating this. Then you'll see this whole effort might be, it's worthwhile to explore that. There might be medical implications. There might be spin-offs which are beneficial to people around the world. But in the long run, I think the spiritual investigation, that's the path to go. And that's something that everybody can do.
Yeah, no, beautifully said. I liked how you touched on the topic of kind of like elaborating on that front, because even like I kind of have thought about that a lot, like a lot of these shows, whether you watch like these vampire shows or whatever, it shows a lot of times that people that have immortality and are even living for thousands of years, they're not happy. People think that immortality is going to give them happiness, right? And this made me think a lot, but when you see, I know it's obviously their shows, they're fiction, but you kind of get an understanding because the fact that death is the ultimate truth gives value to life, right? And that's my personal understanding, that because we know that there is an end, we try to cherish, at least we should cherish every moment. There's something called love, right? If you watch these shows, they're like, they've been living on thousands of years. I mean, how many partners are you going to have? They might die. I mean, some people, like, it's going to have its own issues. Immortality isn't
exactly.
the answer. Yeah.
If the immortality, the way it is, the people are conceiving of it as freezing the body and resurrecting it all over again, it's basically they're trying to prolong what's going on right now. Now, if I'm not happy with things right now, if I prolong it 100 years or 500 years into the future, I won't be happy with it. They say, it is a nice saying that, repeating the same thing and expecting a different outcome, that's the very definition of insanity. So,
Wow. Yeah,
you want to
very
do the
well
same thing. Why would you think you would feel any better about it 500 years later? Unless the inner person is transformed. And if the inner person is transformed, that's what spirituality wants to do. Vedanta or Buddhism or any of the traditions. If the inner person is transformed, then then this very life, you'll have a different perspective on this very life. Maybe right now where I'm unhappy, I could actually be much happier.